Humans are the backbone of Clash Royale and probably the easiest group to recognize. They are the ones that look just like us, except they are living in the crazy world of Clash. Think about cards like the Knight, Archers, and Barbarians. They don't shoot fireballs or summon skeletons, they just rely on weapons like swords, bows, and axes. Humans, usually cheap, fill all kinds of roles, from support to tanks to swarms. Lore-wise, humans are the foundation of the Clash universe. They represent the everyday warriors who make up villages and armies before giants or magic come into play. What makes them fun is how relatable they are. You can imagine a knight charging into battle with his sword, or barbarians swinging swords in pure rage. They don't need fancy powers to be threatening. In fact, some of the strongest push decks in the game are built around simple human troops like Three Musketeers. Humans also represent the base of the Clash universe's society. If you strip away all the giants and dragons, you'd still have these warriors fighting in arenas. They are also a reminder that not every troop has to be magical or mechanical to dominate a match. Sometimes, a basic knight can be the difference between losing a tower and holding your ground. Magicians. When we talk about magicians in Clash Royale, we are talking about the cards that channel straight-up magic. Wizards and witches fall under this group. They are the spark of fantasy in the game, and they often decide matches with their spells and abilities. The wizard stands out with his fiery blasts that can clear swarms in seconds. The witch summons skeletons endlessly while dealing splash damage, making her one of the most annoying support units if left unchecked. Magicians often have low health, but they make up for it by dealing area damage or providing utility. Lore-wise magicians are the storytellers of fantasy. In the Clash world, they are the bridge between reality and magic, summoning fire and skeletons from thin air. They are not frontliners like giants, but they turn battles around with their abilities. The fun part about magicians is that they can completely shift the pace of a game. One well-placed wizard behind a tank can fry a whole army. Players have a love-hate relationship with them because while they look cool, casting spells, they can be incredibly frustrating to face when you don't have the right counter. Superhumans. In Clash Royale, there is a special category of troops that feel like they go beyond the limits of normal warriors. These are the human champions and legendary fighters that players often call superhumans. They may look like ordinary people at first glance, but their abilities set them apart from the rest of the human race in the arena. Cards like the Archer Queen with her deadly precision are perfect examples. The game officially calls them champions, which is also their rarity tier, but not every champion is human. Skeleton King belongs to the undead, and Goblinstein represents goblins. So in this race, we are only talking about the human champions that tower above knights, barbarians, and archers. The Archer Queen is one of the most iconic examples of a superhuman. Her cloak ability lets her turn invisible for a few seconds and unleash rapid fire damage that can delete entire pushes if timed right. The Golden Knight is another, famous for his chain dash that cuts through whole swarms and sometimes feels unstoppable when it locks onto the right targets. Then there is the Monk, whose deflect ability not only makes him tanky, but also turns enemy projectiles back against them. A power that no ordinary soldier could dream of. Even the Valkyrie, who is not a champion rarity card, feels like a superhuman with the way her whirlwind attack clears everything around her in one sweep. What ties these cards together is the sense of being more than human. They are central win conditions that entire decks are built around, and when one of them is overturned, the meta often revolves around it until balance changes come in. Lore-wise, these fighters feel like legendary heroes who stand above the crowd. They are still human, but written almost like myths, with powers that bend the rules of battle. Players either love them for their flashy abilities or hate them for the frustration they bring when they dominate the latter. Superhumans prove that sometimes raw courage and steel are not enough in Clash Royale, and the arena needs heroes who bend the rules of battle with powers that no regular warrior could ever wield. Giants are exactly what their name suggests, huge tanky units that soak up damage and smash buildings. The regular giant is the classic example with his massive health pool and simple role of walking straight to enemy towers and punching them. Then you have variations like the Royal Giant who stays at range shooting his cannon. Lore-wise, giants are the unstoppable brutes of the Clash universe. They are rarely clever, but always powerful, known for their single-minded obsession with smashing buildings. Giants are the core of beatdown decks. You drop them at the back, build up a push, and watch as they slowly march toward the opponent's side. They are not fast, but their durability forces opponents to respond with heavy damage dealers or swarms. Giants usually need support behind them, because on their own they are too slow and easy to kite. But when backed up with a wizard or musketeer, they become terrifying. What makes giants so iconic is how simple they are. No spells, no tricks, just a massive wall of health walking to your tower. Players either love them for their straightforward style or hate them because once a giant gets to your tower, it can be game over quickly. They are the true tanks of Clash Royale's world. Trolls, Bowler. The Bowler is pretty much the lone troll in Clash Royale. His design makes it clear he isn't a goblin or a giant, he is something different. Trolls in fantasy are often bulky and throw things, and that is exactly what the Bowler does. He lugs around a massive rock and rolls it in a straight line, knocking back everything in its path. That knockback effect is what makes him so unique, because he can stop swarms and pushes by himself if placed correctly. The Bowler costs 5 elixir, so he isn't cheap, but his ability to control ground pushes makes him worth it in certain decks. He pairs really well with Tornado because you can clump troops together and let him bowl them all down at once. Some players see him as underrated, while others hate how slow and expensive he feels. He doesn't fit into every deck, but in the right setup, he can completely shut down win conditions like Battle Ram. The Bowler may be the only troll we have in Clash Royale, but he represents them well as a race of strong, stubborn units that rely on raw strength to keep enemies at bay. Goblins and the Goblin Giant. If there's one race that feels like it has carved out its own little chaotic empire inside Clash Royale, it's the Goblins. These guys are everywhere. From the humble 3 goblins with knives that you unlock early in the game, to the endless spin-offs like Spear Goblins, Goblin Gang, Goblin Hut, Goblin Barrel, Goblin Drill, and even the Goblin Giant Supercell clearly loves these little green troublemakers. And players do too, because no matter how many variations we get, goblins always find a way to be useful. At their core, goblins are cheap, fast, and relentless. They don't have a lot of health, but that's not really their job. Instead, they shine in numbers and speed. A single goblin gang can shred through a tank if left unchecked, and something as simple as a goblin barrel can flip an entire match if the opponent runs out of small spells. That's the beauty of goblins. They punish you for slipping up, and their low elixir cost means they're always ready to be thrown back into the fight. Lore-wise, goblins are tricksters and scavengers. They thrive in chaos, building huts, drilling under towers, and laughing while they cause destruction. But goblins aren't just effective, they're also full of personality. They laugh, they taunt, and they always feel like they're up to no good. Compared to the stoic knights or barbarians, goblins bring humor and chaos into the Clash world. They're the pranksters of the arena, but never underestimate them, because behind that goofy laugh is a troop that can completely dismantle your push. And then comes their big cousin, the Goblin Giant. He takes the brute strength of a giant and gives it a goblin twist by carrying 2 spear goblins on his back. This makes him both a tank and a support card in one. While he soaks up damage, his spear goblins are constantly chipping away at defenses, which means ignoring him is almost impossible. Paired with heavy hitters like Sparky or Double Prince, he becomes a real win condition. Of course, at 6 elixir, he's expensive, and smart players can stop him with swarms or buildings before he does too much damage. Together, the Goblins and the Goblin Giant show how versatile this race is. From cheap cycle plays to heavy tank pushes, Goblins can fill almost any role in a deck. They're funny, sneaky, and downright annoying at times. But that's exactly why they've remained some of the most iconic and dangerous troops in Clash Royale's history. Spirits, Mites. Spirits, also known as Mites, are some of the smallest but most iconic races in Clash Royale. Each one represents an element, and they are all about quick bursts of magic. You have fire spirits that run in and explode with fiery damage, ice spirits that freeze opponents, heal spirits that provide quick healing, and electro spirits that zap enemies with chain lightning. All of them are cheap, costing just 1 elixir, and they are staples in many cycle decks. Despite their tiny size, they have a huge impact. Spirits represent the magical energy of Clash Royale and show how even the smallest troops can shape a battle. Their cute animations and distinct effects make them fan favorites, and even though they vanish instantly, they always leave their mark on the arena. Golems. The Golems are one of the most diverse races in Clash Royale. At the top, you have the classic Golem, a massive tank made of stone who splits into 2 Golemites when destroyed. Then there's the Ice Golem, who is smaller and cheaper but explodes with a slowing effect when he dies. Finally, the Elixir Golem brings a risky twist. He splits into smaller blobs when defeated and actually gives your opponent extra elixir, making him one of the most controversial cards in the game. Golems are slow tanks that require heavy support, but if they reach the tower, they deal massive damage. Their race theme is about durability and splitting, which makes them feel almost immortal. Players either love building slow golem pushes or hate playing against them, since a single mistake can cost you the game. They might not be fast or flashy, but the golems stand as one of the strongest and most unique families in Clash Royale. Minions. The minions are one of the most iconic air units in Clash Royale. They are part of a big race with multiple versions, including the regular minions, Mega Minion, and Minion Horde. What makes minions so strong is that they are cheap, fast, and deal high damage if ignored. A single set of minions can shred a tank or punish a tower if your opponent has no air defense ready. The Mega Minion in particular has been a meta card for years because of its balance between cost and value. Minion Horde, on the other hand, is risky, but can completely erase big threats in seconds. The minion family always carries that risk-reward style. Either you win big, or you get blown out by a simple spell like arrows or fireball. Lore-wise, they are small flying creatures that serve as soldiers of the skies. They don't look intimidating, but their damage output is scary. For many players, minions are a love-hate group, either your reliable air DPS or your worst nightmare when you don't have the right answer. Dragons bring fire and fury to Clash Royale. You have the Baby Dragon, a cheap flying splash attack, Electro Dragon that chains lightning. Each dragon has its own element and style, but they all represent aerial dominance. Baby Dragon is one of the oldest and most reliable splash cards in the game, while Electro Dragon fits into control decks where his stun locks opponents. Dragons are never cheap throwaway cards. They always feel like investments that pay off when you support them. The Lava Hound even connects with the dragon race through its lava pups, giving air decks a fantasy theme. Players love dragons because they look cool, and because they can swing games if left unchecked. The downside is they are usually slow and need support, so using them requires patience. Still, they are one of the most beloved races in Clash Royale, and add that classic fantasy flavor of flying beasts that every card game needs. Machines in Clash Royale show the technological side of the game. Cards like Sparky, Goblinstein, and Zappies are all mechanical creations. Sparky is a giant cannon on wheels that charges up for massive hits, while Zappies are small stunners that lock enemies. Then you have the P.E.K.K.A family with regular P.E.K.K.A in every event. P.E.K.K.A is one of the most feared single target killers in the entire game. Machines often serve as high risk, high reward units since they need setup, but dominate if they connect. Players love them because they feel powerful and different from the usual fantasy races. Machines also give Clash Royale a steampunk twist where magic mixes with gears and electricity. They are not the most flexible cards, but they always bring a sense of strength and intimidation that fits the arena. Undead. The Undead race is one of the most varied in Clash Royale. You have skeletons in many forms, from one-cost skeletons to skeleton army, and even the mighty Skeleton King. There is the giant skeleton, who carries a massive bomb, skeleton dragons that breathe fire, and spooky troops like Royal Ghost. The Undead race is all about swarming and surprise value. They might look fragile, but they overwhelm you when you don't respect them. Skeleton Army, for example, can erase tanks in seconds, while Royal Ghost sneaks past units with invisibility. The giant skeleton has ended countless pushes by dropping his bomb on everything. What makes Undead so fun is how flexible they are. You can find a skeleton for almost every situation, whether it is a cheap cycle or a tank killer. Players either see them as throwaway cards or as clutch units that can save games. They add humor too, since most skeletons look silly while being deadly. The Undead race gives Clash Royale one of its deepest and most entertaining families: animals. Clash Royale may be filled with knights, wizards, and skeletons, but the game also features a number of troops that are based on animals. These units add personality and humor while still having an important role in battles. The Royal Hogs are one of the most obvious examples. They are pigs wearing helmets that charge straight for enemy towers. They work as a swarm win condition and are loved for their ability to pressure both lanes. Then you have the Bats, which are tiny flying creatures that cost very little elixir, but can deal huge damage if ignored. They are fragile, but in the right hands, they can shred support troops or force out a spell. Another animal-inspired card is the Phoenix. This fiery bird is unique because when it is defeated, it can respawn from an egg if the egg is not destroyed. This gives it a second chance at life and makes it one of the most annoying cards to deal with when it is strong. The Lava Hound also fits into this race as a giant dog-like beast made of molten rock. It targets buildings, and when defeated, it bursts into lava pups that continue to pressure. These animal troops bring variety and a bit of fun to the arena. They remind players that Clash Royale is not only about heavy tanks or magic users, but also about creative units that look wild while still being powerful tools in the right deck.